Hi, everybody. This is Getrude Matshe here in Wellington, New Zealand. I have the honor of interviewing yet another amazing young woman all the way in America. Jasmine, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, the Her Series podcast is here to highlight women's stories all over the world. Please just say to everybody exactly where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Yes, well, thank you again for having me. My name is Jasmine Williams, and I'm 24 years old, based right outside of Washington, D.C. in Northern Virginia. And originally, I am a Maryland girl, born and raised, but I traveled a little bit down south for college. I went to North Carolina to High Point University. And I kind of started out like every other college kid. I was really excited. I was definitely that eager beaver that wanted to join every club and knew that I was going to change the world, but wasn't quite sure how I was going to do that yet. And I felt like High Point was the perfect place for me to do that. There were so many opportunities there, and the campus is incredibly perfect. If you've never seen it before, definitely look it up. But I was just really excited about this new chapter of my life, and little did I know what that chapter actually would hold for me. I started out really involved, really excited about my coursework, and I knew from day one that I wanted to be a journalist. And ironically enough, if you know me today, I am not a journalist, so that's a little bit funny. But I tell college students a lot that if you go in with a major, you're probably going to come out with a different major, and that's okay.
I love it. Life takes you on these little detours, right?
Yes, it does. Some longer than others, but that's okay. So I knew I wanted to be a journalist. I knew that I wanted to work at CNN. Again, they're not my current employer, didn't end up there, but that's okay. But so my freshman year, I felt like I was really getting situated. I was really getting acclimated to the campus. I had some incredible friends, was in some incredible organizations. Mentoring with Big Brothers Big Sisters was one of my personal favorites. And then I kind of hit this roadblock right around my 18th birthday where I kind of had that moment of, do I really want to major in journalism? I'm getting kind of homesick. These people are starting to annoy me. I just miss my mom and my dog. I want to go home.
Hmm.
And so I turned 18, and ironically enough, 1 week after I turned 18 was probably when I first felt like an actual adult. And I kind of felt like I was going to turn 18, and then it would be a while before I really had to do some grown up type of things.
Yes.
Um, but unfortunately, it didn't work out that way for me, because 1 week after my 18th birthday, my mom called me, and I was actually watching the Giants game in one of my friends' rooms. And my mom said, "Hey, I need you to come outside." And as I mentioned, I'm from Maryland, and I was all the way in North Carolina for college. And I remember as I was walking to my mom's car, kind of replaying in the back of my mind, like, what could I possibly have done that my mom got in her car and drove 6 hours to come yell at me right now?
Oh,
And I knew the minute that I saw her that it was far greater than anything that I could have just done, that something had obviously happened. And unfortunately, my mom became the bearer of the bad news that would eventually change my life. And, as soon as I saw her, I kind of was like, just tell me what happened. Just give it to me straight. Don't sugarcoat it. What's going on. And she told me that unfortunately, my older brother had actually died very unexpectedly. And I think the reason that it was so shocking to us, obviously losing anyone is shocking, but he wasn't sick. He didn't have cancer. He didn't have a chronic illness. He was young. He was in his 20s, and he was full of life, ironically enough. And so it really kind of just rocked all of us to our core. And we really each kind of worked through it differently. But I think for me, for a little while, I kind of went into like a hibernation mode almost, where I could not focus on anything other than getting through the day. And that really became my goal, was to get through today. And then once you get through today, you can focus on getting through tomorrow. And once you get through tomorrow, you can focus on getting to the weekend. But kind of thinking about things like, do I really want to major in this? And what am I going to do? And where am I going to live after college? Those thoughts had gone so far out of my head, and they were so low down on the totem pole at that point that I really wasn't giving much thought to them at all. And so, yeah. And so at that point, I kind of found myself almost just going through the motions day to day. I wasn't really, in hindsight, I wasn't really reaching my full potential, and I wasn't doing as much as I felt I should have, I guess is the right way to phrase it.
Whew, that is heavy.
Yes, it was. And it still is. Yes.
It sounds to me like you took on a bad situation and have turned it into something good. Tell me a little bit about the lessons you learned from this experience, especially when it comes to reflecting on life.
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson for me, and I didn't realize it right away, it took me a couple years to get there, but the biggest lesson for me was that in going through the motions day to day and in kind of just getting by, I was doing just that. I mean, I kind of jokingly tell people that I was half-assing my life.
Yeah.
And I think that once I realized that, and once I kind of had that light bulb moment, I really became committed to figuring out how I could change that. And the best thing that I could think of was I also had this realization that I wasn't alone, and that as obvious as this kind of seems, grief makes your mind work in kind of a crazy way.
Yeah.
I kind of had this light bulb moment that someone else will eventually, or has already, lose a brother.
Yes.
And I think once I said that out loud to myself, I realized that I had almost unintentionally joined this kind of club that I didn't want to be in. And I now had a responsibility, I feel like, to share the journey that I've been on and share the struggles that I've had on this journey, and figure out how I can help support the next person that may go through what I've been through. Because I think that if you think about the most recent problem you've had, whether it was something as drastic as losing a loved one, or not having enough parking on your college campus, or, spilling your coffee on the way to work, someone else has gone through that, and someone else will likely go through that same problem.
Yeah.
And if someone else had helped you figure out what to do when you were kind of at your rock bottom with your problem, whatever it was, how much easier would that have made it for you? And so I've kind of tried to use that as my guiding force moving forward in making sure that I'm doing everything within my power to make it easier for the next person that's unfortunately in my shoes.
Oh, wow. So what type of events do you do your presentations?
Yes. So more than anything, I like to speak to college students. And I think that's because such a significant part of my own story happened while I was in college, while I was just a freshman.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that I say to them pretty often is there are students sometimes when I look out in the audience and you can tell they're like, this has never happened to me, or I'm an only child. And I always make a point of saying, this is not just if this ever happens to you or if this has happened to you, but chances are someone that you know will go through this or go through something similar to this. And I think for me, the most important thing was when I stopped thinking about how my loss impacted myself, and I started thinking about how I could use how my loss impacted me to help other people. And so I think if we all kind of take that mindset, it can just do incredible things for all of us.
Oh, man. It's amazing what a situation like this will do to help you grow up and grow up really fast. I reflect back, when I read your bio, on my own situation with, losing my brother at an early age as well.
Yes.
That one of the things that death does is it helps you reframe, helps you see how short this life is, correct?
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
And a lot of times people go through life kind of sleepwalking, not fully awake and aware. And I always say that my brother gave me back my life. He literally gave me back my life because we are
I love
living
that.
borrowed time.
I love that. That's a great way of putting it. I agree.
So if you were to talk to somebody right now, let's go back to your younger self,
Okay.
that very moment when all of this happened, and you were to impart some nuggets of wisdom based on what you know now. Give me 3 things that you would tell that person,
Oh,
especially when it comes to dealing with grief.
I think the biggest number one thing I would say, grief, anything that you're going through in life, is comparison is the thief of all joy. And I think, especially for my generation, this can be really challenging with how active we are online and on social. And you find yourself comparing to, oh, someone so and so just got a promotion and I'm still in the same job I had since, graduating college. Or, oh my gosh, my friend just got a new car. Like, I can't afford to get a new car right now. And you find yourself constantly comparing and contrasting. And all that does is make you feel less than. And all it does is make that person feel less than. It very seldom helps us to compare. Yeah. And I think the only time that we should be comparing is when we're saying, oh my goodness, you're going through this. I've been through that problem. Let me help you. Yes. And so I think that would be my second thing. Something that I speak about pretty often is I always say that every single one of us goes through challenges. And I think the most important thing that we can do is, when you're experiencing something challenging, say, you kind of get 2 options, right? You can say, I had to go through this lesson the hard way. So you know what? Everyone else has to go through it the hard way because I had to struggle. I had to take that really hard class. I had to learn how to drive stick shift on my own, whatever the challenge is, right? Or you can kind of take this second route, which is you can say, I had to go through this the hard way. What can I do to help the next person who's going to go through this get through it that much easier than I did? Yes. And I think a great example of that, one of the organizations that I write for and that I work for, is called the Brand Girls. And essentially what they do, it's an incredible organization. They really work with female clients to help them close the confidence gap and help women feel more empowered in the workplace and their personal branding and networking. And I've worked really closely with their CEO for a while, and she is quoted all the time telling people that the reason she started this organization is because she wishes she had it. And I think that if we all kind of use that mindset of, instead of complaining that I struggled so hard with personal branding and my resume and networking, saying, I'm going to figure out how to do this. And then not only am I going to figure out how to do it, I'm going to teach it to other people. And I think that second part of I'm going to teach it to other people is really important.
And then that means that what was your biggest challenge has turned you into a teacher. We are challenged, we can become teachers. Oh, wow. You're an incredible young woman.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming online and doing this podcast. I wish you luck with your speaking career. Keep in touch with me. And where can people find you? Do you have a website?
I do. So my website, you can find me at jasminecwilliams.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jasmine.
Thank you for your time and for having me. I really appreciate it.
Nice connecting with you.
You as well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.